Welcome to Rainbow Soul Astrology, a weekly podcast presented by Brighthawk and Hollis Taylor. Together, we lay out the weekly astrology in an accessible, inclusive, candid, and insightful way and what it means for you. Hollis is amazing. They're a seasoned astrologer and psychic medium. I'm a musician, artist, and storyteller. We love to make the cosmos relatable, which is why we begin by tuning in with a guided meditation, helping all of us ground and center and feel the planetary energies of the week more deeply. Then we dive into this week's astrological forecast, answer your questions, and then look at the horoscopes for all the signs for the week. Whether you're brand new to astrology or you've been following the stars for years, welcome to the conversation. Welcome to Rainbow Soul Astrology. Let's get centered, take a breath, and explore what the universe has in store for us.
Hey, look at that. Computers just kind of do whatever they want. Welcome, everyone. I'm Hollis. I'm one of your astrologers here today on Rainbow Soul Astrology Forecast. Welcome. I'm glad you're tuning in. You want to say hi, Bright Dog?
There we go. I was trying to get the mute button undone. Hey there, I'm Brighthawk. Good to be here. And yeah, it's an exciting week because we've, of course, have the eclipse this week. So thanks for tuning in. There's lots to talk about.
Is there ever? How are you guys doing since the Black Moon? What was it, about a week or so ago? We've hopefully, I've given you a heads up about what might happen for you. That Black Moon, whatever happened during the Black Moon for you, is probably going to be also what you're dealing with or walking through during this time. During the eclipse season this season, and eclipse season is just getting warmed up, just getting started. Eclipses are so very they're not always intense, but they're usually faded, if nothing else. And in fact, the people that are born under an eclipse usually have very interesting faded lives, from what I understand. I think Bright Hawk, were you born during was it a lunar or solar?
Hours. Lunar.
A lunar eclipse. Okay. So when someone is born under a lunar eclipse, they tend to have very interesting lives. And then when I'm thinking about it, I'm like, yeah, Bright Hawk has a very interesting life. So do I, but I wasn't born under an eclipse. I just have a weird life. maybe because I made it that way. Oh, Bianca missed last week. Bianca. Let me just say, Bianca, let me just bring you up to speed. Whatever you were dealing with in that last week, whatever you've been working on, whatever's making your life insane, you'll probably be working on that during the eclipse. So at least know that during the nice thing about lunar eclipses is they usually give you an aha moment. And you can know that the light is at the end of the tunnel, which would be at the end of the month. We're going to go into more detail today about the eclipse and exactly where you might notice these shifts in your life. If you're noticing big shifts in the world, you are alert and oriented. We are shifting. The world is changing in front of us every day, my friends. And we're trying a little bit different things since we're doing this this sort of mobile phone format for our lives. We've been trying to kind of experiment with different ways to show you the charts. So I want to go ahead and get us started now that I've reviewed last week and we're starting to get people tuning in. Oh, we have to do the meditation, duh. Welcome, Chelsea. All right. So let me just mute that.
I don't know if they can hear you. Okay. Oh, I know what's going on. I thought already.
That is so much better.
Good.
I have no idea what you did, but it worked.
It was the mic source.
Okay. Well, I'm so glad. I want to welcome everyone for tuning in. So I'm going to invite you to just take a deep breath. Ground in with the beautiful hand pan music from Bright Hawk. Close your eyes if you can and allow yourself to just float into the stars. Where you are just free to float, nothing restricting you, totally and completely free. Free floating through the universe. And you hear this beautiful music, and beyond you, you are completely surrounded by stars. The stars seem to go on forever, trailing along. And some of those stars are a little bit bigger, and you recognize those as planets. Slowly making their movements. And as you're turning, you can view the planet Earth. And the moon is off in the distance. And you can see that planet Earth belongs here. It is one planet amongst many. And the universe holds planet Earth with intention to fall in to the part of the earth that you live. You slowly begin to sink down. You recognize that you too are part of this destiny. And while the moon whispers in your ear that you always have free will and that your destiny is made from your deepest desires, and you slide deeply and completely down into your body, back here on planet Earth. And as you come back into your body, I invite you to stretch your fingers, your toes, roll your neck, open your eyes, and come back to the here and now. Well done, Bright Hawk. Welcome. Good job. I feel like my Mercury is sideways. Okay. It's partially probably because I can hear myself. So, Juggler John, thanks for tuning in. Welcome. This is our astrology forecast. We're happy to have you. And Bianca, we're still trying to zoom in that sound there. We're still trying to get that perfectly right, but thanks for your feedback. Hey, Alyssa, welcome. Hello, everyone over on YouTube and Megan on Facebook. Lorelai, welcome. Layla, welcome. Well, Chelsea, you're funny. Chelsea's like, I'm so happy to tune in today. It's been a tough week and a tough day. So I just got done watching last week's astrology forecast to figure out why. Well, and isn't it hilarious that I'm pretty sure last week, Bright Hawk, we had a void moon. And so I think some people might have missed the forecast. So let me just say again, let me just bring you up to speed. Whatever happened on that black moon, which I think was last week on like a Thursday or Friday, whatever happened on that last new moon, I'm pretty sure was what it was. That's going to be kind of your theme between now and the next new moon, which will be at the end of September. So it's two new moons in the same sign, which is Virgo, which is very unusual. It doesn't always happen, but it did happen. And so, like in a row, if you get what I'm saying, like usually it changes signs, but it didn't this time or something. Anyway, so, whatever you've been dealing with, tolerating, walking through, trying to figure out, if you feel like there's something hasn't been revealed yet, you're right. Or if you feel like you still have to sort of figure something out, you're right on time. So listen in. And we're also doing the charts slightly different. So I want you to let us know how if this works a little bit better. Bright Hawk prepared the charts slightly differently to see if this is a better way. And I thought they kind of worked. So let's first start with these, I'm going to take us out, Bright Hawk, because we can always, oh no, we can't. Oh yeah, we can. We could do it like this. Okay, so now they can still hear us, and all you have to do is unmute. Um, so of course the sun is in Virgo right now, in case you didn't know that. And this is today's chart. This is for today, September the 1st. And you can see there's a grand trine in fire, which I thought was interesting because it's in Chiron. It's with Chiron, which is, of course, the wounded healer. Mercury, which is the planet of messages, as well as the moon. And they're all three in fire, which is it's great for manifestation. It's really good for that sort of thing. And so I feel like with the grand trine, I'm wondering if that's in support particular to the protests, Bright Hawk. Like I think those protests in particular would be blessed by that. And then, there's also a lot of trines, a lot of blessings, a lot of things coming together easily right now that has a lot to do with like the North Node in Pisces. So if you feel like you're having an experience or other people around you are having spiritual experiences, we're definitely headed into a pretty deep one in this coming month. And I think the North Node in Pisces is sort of pointing us that way. I will say that Saturn has moved into Pisces. So the fact that Saturn is in Pisces away from that Neptune in Aries, even though they're still technically conjunct, I feel like since Saturn has moved into Pisces, some things are being revealed. And I would say every day I get closer to the answers that I'm looking for. How about you guys? Do you feel like it's a slow reveal? It's like slowly the curtains are being pulled back from whatever has been hidden. So that's kind of where we're at right now. Okay. Bright Hawk, did you want to add anything about today?
Well, just that. Hollis mentioned that we're in the second quarter moon, which always looks like a half moon. If you're lucky enough to go outside and see the moon where you're located, what I'm noticing is that the moon is much lower in the sky than I'm used to seeing it. We're fortunate that we can actually just see it outside our windows. And, I'm used to it going across at a certain height. And this time I'm noticing how low it is in the sky. So, of course, we're coming up to a full moon lunar eclipse. Yes, they're very fated. This lunar eclipse involves the South Node in Virgo. And so that whole energy cycle really started a week ago with the new moon. And now it's building, building, building. And now when we get to the full moon, if you have strong Virgo placements, frankly, any Virgo placements, it's lighting you up. You have to lighten up those placements in your chart, I should say. and I'm encouraged by the grand trine because, of course, trines are really blessed, flowy energy, but it can also be very hot, right? It's all fire, which fire is great for manifestation and creation. So there's this combination of energies that are moving as we build towards the lunar eclipse on the 7th on Sunday, and I'll be curious, how is it unfolding for you? Does it feel like you're having new beginnings, or is it seeing certain endings? There's a revelation that happens with eclipses, and a definite, especially with the South Node involved, a letting go of past, a revelation of something in the past. The past is definitely part of it. And of course, when we're talking at these levels, we're really can be also talking at a soul, not just this lifetime, but past lives suddenly make sense in this life, that kind of thing. Past life relationships suddenly appearing in this life, like, could really be cosmic. That's the nature of an eclipse. It can just be what 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 needs to be revealed or recognized or seen differently. And how are you feeling about that? Curious how you're feeling about that as we're getting closer and closer to the eclipse.
Mm. Yeah. So I think with this South Node in Virgo, I think we're sort of forced to sort of reflect on the past and take a look at what's going on in sort of from the past and how that influences you now. And which way do you want to go now? Where do you want to go next? Um, And I was wondering, Brighthawk, since the moon, Alyssa said she also noticed that the moon is sitting lower. If the moon is sitting lower, does that mean it's closer to us and more intense, like they talk about with a supermoon?
I believe this one's called a blood moon, and for whatever reason, and I think it is because it is lower and closer to the equator and farther south. And oh, there's people smarter than me that can explain how this all translates, but I'm not going to try to go there right now.
Okay, I was just wondering.
Yeah, I have done a few classes in it, but I'm not confident enough to explain it. So it's definitely this time of year, the fact that we're coming up to the equinox, which of course means equal, and that's a turning point in these flows. So yeah, it's interesting. Alyssa, where are you located on the planet? If you don't mind my asking.
Um, yeah, so I'm pretty sure I read that the moon was the lower it is in the sky, the sort of closer it is to us. Therefore, the more intense it is. Um, Chelsea said, I'm feeling worried. I had an encounter with someone from my past on 822 that brought up a lot of old feelings, not pleasant. Hopefully, it's more about letting go of the pain. Absolutely, Chelsea. Or it could be about holding a boundary. Spirit's saying, hey, did you learn how to hold that boundary? Did you learn how to make that stop? Did you learn how to stay out of that tangle, that toxic tangle, or whatever it is? I feel like sometimes we talk about this. I think it's good that we talk about this in astrology. Let me just address this. Let me just say that in astrology, I would say that one of the things that you want to be really careful of is I get worried too, Chelsea. Okay, I totally get it. I get worried, and it's okay to get concerned. But I think that, like they say, Buddhist monks say it all the time, if you worry, you suffer twice. So I try to instead, like, okay, I acknowledge the worry because I'm a Virgo and that's what we do. And then once I get through that, and I think, Chelsea, you have Virgo placements. So then once you get through that, then just allow and recognize the astrology is not here to scare you or make you worried. It is here to help you prepare. And so you can then say to yourself, if this person comes back around, how can I hold a boundary? How can I avoid getting tangled up in that tangle? How can I do a better job of being part of that or encountering this person again? So if something has come up last week for you and you're concerned about it coming back, instead of being worried about it, instead make a plan, and then you'll and then just let it go to the universe, because that's kind of what we've done. We've kind of said, okay, these are the things that are happening for us, so this is what we'll do to work through it to the best of our ability, and we'll go forward in that way. And I think that that's the best way to do it. And I think that's the power of having an astrology forecast, is that it gives you an insight of what might unfold in the coming week. and then allow you to allow it. Sometimes just knowing it was going to happen makes it a little bit easier to take. Sometimes, especially for people with Virgo placements, we're not big on surprises or things that shake up our world. Taurus, all the earth signs, I think, struggle with that in general. Virgo is probably more mutable of all of us. But I think that, when you're kind of like prepared for it and you're like, okay, well, I have a plan. I know what I'm going to do. If that person comes back around, I know how I'm going to hold my boundary. And that's what you do. You just make a plan and then you let it go and you let the universe, and you trust that the universe is going to serve you in the best way. Bright Hawk, did you want to add anything to that? It's a completely valid thing to be concerned.
Oh, I just send you big love, Chelsea. It reminds me very much of when, oh gosh, this must have been 30 years ago, and I read the Tao of Pooh, the Tao of Winnie the Pooh. And in this, the Tao of Pooh, Piglet is the worry one, right? Oh, Pooh, I'm so worried. The windstorm's coming, or whatever. Piglet's always worried. Piglet's always fretting, right? And Winnie the Pooh is, of course, the Tao, right? The the wise guru who just goes, "Oh, everything will be all right. Everything's gonna work out." And we're not advocating for toxic positivity, but we are advocating for there's when we ask the right questions, we go on really good quests. So I have found that asking myself, what is it I need to learn? How can I surf this? What's really seeking to be recognized in this moment? It's a very different experience. And absolutely all the things endorse what Hollis said. That's why we do this together. We very much think alike on these terms. And I love what Juggler John added. Worry makes you pay a debt you don't owe. And thank you for tuning in, because that's part of how I know we can alleviate worry in our lives a lot of times is by educating ourselves, which is why we're always saying, I don't know how anybody lives through these times that we're in without understanding a little bit about astrology and the surf that we're all on, surfs up. Hang 10, man.
Okay. And um Chelsea said that's great advice. I'm trying to see it in a positive light. Maybe it was more about showing myself how much I've grown and will continue to grow. That's right, Chelsea. That's right. And maybe it's just about proving to yourself that you can hold a boundary, right? Sometimes we have to be tested in order for us to believe in ourselves. We make changes, and how do we know how do we know for sure that we've really made that change until we're tested again? And then when we're tested and we really have made that change, then we can really be confident in ourselves and our ability to hold boundaries. Okay. And I think boundaries are really important for healthy relationships. Okay. And Alyssa was saying, I was just explaining that to my mom today, almost verbatim. Yeah, about worry. Yeah. So that's what astrology is for. I just wanted to get into that so we could say. So let's take a look at the charts. And so this was for Monday. Now, Tuesday, you can take a look here. Let us know if these charts work a little bit better for you, if you could take a look at them. On Tuesday, you're going to start seeing, I started noticing that I think, yeah, Tuesday is when you can see two green lines pointing to Mercury, which enters Virgo on Tuesday. And Mercury is in its rulership in Virgo. So I feel like in this chart, it kind of dominates the chart. So we do this thing called essential dignities, which means that when a planet is in its rulership, it's stronger. When it's in its detriment, it's not very strong. For instance, Mars is in Libra. And when Mars is in Libra, it's in its detriment. Libra is ruled by Venus. Mars is kind of the opposite of that. and Mars kind of gets dampened down a little bit, isn't expressed as loudly. So if you're learning to read your astrology chart, make sure you, especially if you've gotten my astrology 10, Bright Hawk and I's astrology 101 class, there is a cheat sheet in there for essential dignities. And that's what comes with the package when you buy the whole class. And you'll learn about essential dignities. We teach that in the class because it is pretty important when you're looking at a chart to know what planet is the strongest here. And when you're looking at this, one of the strongest planets other than Jupiter in Cancer, which is also in some trines. So, but it's in a trine to the south node and the north node, and it's been there a while. I've noticed that it's positive alignments. Now, Jupiter in Cancer usually means like patriotism or feeling, having very strong beliefs about your home or where you live, which of course not only counts for your house, but it also would have to do with, your the state you live in, the country you live in. Maybe this is why some people are leaving the country, right? Um, and it will have a lot to do with how you feel about that. And the interesting thing is when it first started to happen, I was a little concerned it would be aligned with what we would call conservative patriots. But it wasn't. It has not been. It has been aligned with the protests, and rather liberal patriots, is what I would say. And so it's in a trine right now to the south node and the north node. So are the protests having an effect? Yes. The second strongest planet is Mercury. Okay. And I would say it's the second strongest planet of the entire chart. And that would be Mercury because it's in its rulership, which is Virgo. And it has a yod pointing to it on Tuesday, Wednesday, third, and it kind of fades on Thursday. But this week is very faded. So starting tomorrow and even late tonight and into tomorrow and into Wednesday and maybe even Thursday, you might start to notice something happening or something going on. And these are things that must happen. They are very faded. They are necessary. This will be probably about messages. You'll probably get a message. Okay. Now, this is pulling from that Saturn in Pisces that I told you is pulling away from Neptune. And also it's also pulling from Pluto retrograde in Aquarius. And this makes me think about, if you're having any health scares or anything like that, maybe something would be revealed Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, something that you'll become aware of all of a sudden, something that will start to make sense. So if you are looking for messages about something, maybe you're having a health scare, maybe it's a relationship, maybe it's an understanding of something, that is going to be coming through Tuesday, Wednesday in particular. You're going to get those messages. I want you to pay attention and stay tuned to those messages because they're very important. Because of course, Virgo is also where the eclipse is happening. And since Mercury is going to be part of the eclipse, I would suggest that you listen to that because that message that you're getting this week, Tuesday, Wednesday, will probably be the most accurate sort of message that you get out of all of the messages. And so if you're waiting for something to be revealed, that's really when you're going to see it. You're really going to see it Tuesday and Wednesday this week. It's very faded. There's messages being delivered to you. Probably it could be about your wellness or something else. And I'll be happy to take a look. When I do the horoscopes at the end, I will make sure to focus on Mercury moving into Virgo during this Yod Tuesday, Wednesday, and that's when I'll take a look at the horoscopes for you. So make sure you know your sun, moon, and rising, so that we can make sure that we really hone in on this movement this week, so that when the message comes in, to take it seriously. So don't dismiss it. So I think that's like the most important thing that's happening this week. What do you think do you have anything to add, Bright Hawk?
Yeah, I just think the Mercury moving into Virgo and then being the tip of the yod, it's very fated energy. It's going to speak to you. It's going to speak to transformation, Pluto. It's going to speak to what needs to change, Saturn, structure, uh, Neptune, dreams, visions, illusions. So very powerful, very fated. Nothing you can do about it. Best thing I can recommend is that you be in the flow with it, not try to resist it. That's what we mean when we talk about fated energy. I have a lot of this in my chart. So there are times where I realize that, especially as I've gotten older, you have to do this. There are times we know what we have to do, right? So just shut up about resisting, kind of self-talk to myself, not you. And deal with what has to be dealt with. And when we're honest and we sit with ourselves, we know what we have to do. And this is that kind of energy this week. What is it you need to do? You can do it. You have all the resources you need. We are so blessed and capable and have been given so much. So how does it need to get focused for whatever needs to manifest for you in your life? Yeah. The other thing I want to say is about the moon. You'll notice it changed signs into Capricorn, and I didn't mention the void. We have some really short, like barely blink, and the void, of course, moon is over. And then we have some longer ones. So my guiding principle is if it's less than an hour, it's so short you're barely going to notice it. So I don't include it in the chart if it's 10 minutes, 15 minutes. And that happens. But we do have one towards the end of the week, right as we come up to the eclipse. That's pretty substantial. But now the moon's in Capricorn. And of course, Capricorn is the opposite of where the moon is at home in Cancer. Moon rules Cancer. So opposite side of the chart is Capricorn. And so we would say the moon is already weaker. It's because it's farthest from its home. It's in detriment is what we call that. And you were talking about that earlier, so I'm just going to throw that in. But it's in a really good aspect. It's trining the sun and that south node is still at 18. So it's trining the sun, so it's in a positive aspect. And yeah, we've talked a lot about that yod. You're going to feel that, and I'm glad you're going to focus the horoscopes for the week on that spot because that's pretty powerful.
All right. So you can take a look Wednesday here. I've put up Wednesday's chart, and you can see that yod continues. It's those two green lines. They're pulling from Saturn and Neptune and Pluto. I actually think Wednesday you'll probably get some sort of intuition, only because the moon is coming in contact to Pluto at some point Wednesday evening as that yod starts to fall apart. And I feel like the moon in Aquarius is very intuitive. And so that's going to just add to the intuitive download of the messages that you're getting in regards to what you're dealing with, right? We're all dealing with something different. And that's the interesting part about astrology. While it says, well, you might be dealing with this or that, it depends on your chart. And that's why we do the horoscopes at the end, right? It has a lot to do with your rising sign, your sun sign, your moon sign. Like what placements do you have in Virgo? And do you have anything in late degree Pisces or early degree Aries, like the first 2 or 3 degrees of Aries or the last 2 or 3 degrees of Pisces? Every sign only has 30 degrees in it, by the way, if you're doing Placidus, if you're doing Western astrology. And then, of course, Pluto is at 1 degree Aquarius. So do you have anything, right there at that, first or second degree Aquarius? And I think that is the important part for you to remember is pay attention to how this comes in for you. Now, Virgo does generally rule things like the earth or the planet, including things like gardening and making food and growing things and that kind of thing. And we are in a place of harvest right now. We're headed towards known as a holiday known as Mabon, which celebrates the harvest on September 21st, which also happens to be the solar eclipse. So, what are we harvesting as well? What are we what have we harvested this summer? What have we grown within ourselves this summer, and pull from that and notice the messages that you get, because it's going to help you with that harvest in a really good way. So, just try to plug in. I think with all of these trines, I don't think there's anything to be worried about as far as like an intense way. I don't think there's going to be terrible things happening, but I do think that we will become aware of things that have already happened, or things from the past that we need to become aware of, which I think is pretty darn important. And I think most of you would agree, so it's just super important that we stay tapped into that as this eclipse comes up. And, that's Tuesday and Wednesday. That's really when we're going to get most of the messages. That's when faded things are going to happen. That's when we're really going to get strong downloads about it. And I don't want you to dismiss those messages. Alyssa said, I feel like there's so many directions this could go, honestly. So I've really been paying attention for any signs or hints about what this may primarily be about. Either I need to wear my hair tighter so I can catch it going over my head, or it hasn't really shown itself yet. So we shall see. Well, Alyssa, I think you have the North Node in Pisces, if I remember correctly. So I'm immediately saying, oh, well, then, you might have like a lunar eclipse, like a aha moment. So I would wait for that on September the 7th about your overall direction, in that, about where you're headed. Um, Juggler John said, thank you for your wisdoms and teachings. I love you both more than words can convey. Don't worry, be happy. Thank you, Juggler John. Bianca said, I have a number of things in Capricorn. Okay, but Bianca, it's not going to be super intense just because you have a stellium in Capricorn. Just going to say, it's going to be more intense for the Virgo Pisces axis. Okay, so just so you know. And as we go forward on to Thursday, as I said, that Yod will have dissipated by Thursday. The moon will move past it. You'll get your download. And I'm pretty sure that you'll figure out, you might have to do a little bit of problem solving with that Mars in conjunct the North Node. But I'm really sure that you'll be able to come up with good answers. There's a lot of great trines, a lot of great aspects in the sky supporting this transit, supporting this eclipse in a really good way. I'm not necessarily saying that it's going to be intense in a bad way. It could be really intensely good, honestly, especially with all these trines and blessings carrying us through this week. And I think and I think with all of these trines going on, I just think that this week, even Thursday, it's not much different. Most of the sort of faded energy will happen on Tuesday and Wednesday. You'll get some sort of downloads or some messages somehow. You might hear from somebody. You might learn something, or something will be revealed. I'm sure that will also happen on a bigger level in our country. We'll probably learn some information we didn't have before, especially as Saturn and Neptune begin to move away from each other. Saturn rules the system and Neptune rules illusions, delusions, and things like that. And they're both in retrograde. So that means we're reviewing something. So something will be revealed. And as we head into the weekend, it really kind of looks a lot of the same. Or I didn't notice a whole lot of intensity, except that on Saturday, Uranus will go, Uranus will go retrograde, right? So yeah. So that's actually Saturday. So let me just change the chart there for you. So that's
go to
ahead,
Friday
Reinhard.
for a minute.
Okay.
So Friday into Saturday is one of the void of course moons that I was talking about, where it's not 10 minutes, it's almost all day. It begins at 9 p.m. on Friday, and then it goes all the way through Saturday until 4 p.m. So, if you're joining us for the first time and you've never heard me explain, the void of course moon is when and that's the name of it. I'm not making that up. Void of course. It's that in between when the moon changes signs. Anybody who knows magic knows the in between. That's where the magic happens. That's where the good stuff is, right? Um, so the void in this case is when the moon will be moving out of Aquarius into Pisces and getting set up for a full moon in Pisces at, when we go to the Sunday chart, I set it up. The Sunday chart is the lunar eclipse. So mountain time, it'll be happening around noon. And interesting moon activity. And so we have been asking everyone if you've been noticing when there's a void moon, how do you feel? It means that there's less emotional energy, less drama energy. So a lot of people say, gosh, you know what? I'm actually able to be really focused and get stuff done during a void moon because it's quieter for some reason. So curious for what your experience is of the void moon. Um, we had a big one last week. I can't remember which day of the week right now because I'm here in this week. All right, so that's Friday into Saturday, and then Sunday is the eclipse.
Okay. So if you take a look after Friday's void moon, Bianca, just to ask real quick, what is the midheaven? It's at the top of your sky. There's usually at the top of your chart, it's usually like an arrow pointing up. It's also called the MC. And the midheaven, or the MC, tends to be your career, or what you put out in the world, what you offer the world. And so your MC will kind of sort of help us understand what your expression is out in the world. Okay, so that's that arrow pointing up. As we go forward into Saturday, I just want to talk about Uranus for a minute. So Alyssa's a little worried because her moon sign is in Uranus. Now, you might notice when Uranus goes backward, Alyssa. But I noticed it, but what I would say is that Uranus, while it's a very sort of surprising planet, it will tend to catch you a little off guard. It can definitely bring surprises. Some people say that Uranus likes to come in and kick the playing table over. And sometimes that is true, but I also notice about Uranus as a bigger planet. So it tends to not be as loud or as intense like on one day. It tends to play the long game, is what I say. It tends to play a longer game. This is Saturday, it will go retrograde. And so you may not feel it on Saturday. You may not feel it till Monday or next week or next month, really. Okay. And so you just want to pay attention to what's in Gemini. You might feel it when it moves out of Gemini into Taurus more, Alyssa, or it might be a continuation of whatever happens on Saturday. Like it could be a minor thing that happens on Saturday, and then that would later play out when it leaves Gemini later on this year in the fall. Deeper into the fall, I think it's November. And so you want to pay attention to what's going on when Uranus makes movements, because it will be about your deeper movements. So for instance, when Uranus first moved out of Taurus and into Gemini, for me, Gemini rules my eighth house, of all kinds of things, of taboo topics that you don't want to talk about, or shadow and the occult. And I had some things come up like that, mostly about myself. And so I would say that Uranus is speaking to me, but it wasn't so intense. Okay. It's more like a long game. And I've seen Uranus play out in other people's charts. And when it gets intense is when you have a planet at that spot. So, do you have anything at 0 or 1 degree Gemini? Maybe 2 degree, you might notice it more. So, a person had Uranus directly on top of her Mars, which happened to be, I think it was at 1 degree Gemini. And she was really concerned about her health, and it was connected also to her sun and things like that, and to Mercury, because Mercury is connected to Gemini, but it's also connected to Virgo. Anyway, it ended up playing out that she had to get a colonoscopy, but it turned out that it was okay. You see what I'm saying? It's a long play planet, and she didn't find out the answer for a couple weeks later, right, or like a week later or whatever. So it's a long play, and she's had to work on her gut, and she's working on her health. And so that's an example of like a long play Uranus. So Uranus, when it turns forward and backwards, when it lands, if you happen to have a planet there, you'll probably definitely notice it. But if you just have a planet in that sign somewhere, you probably won't notice it as intensely until it's on that planet. So it's only gotten to 1 degree. Gemini, and now it's going to turn around and go back. So if you have something in the late, like 29 degrees Taurus, or 0 or 1 degree Gemini, then you're probably going to feel it, but you'd have to have something there. So take a look at your chart and see where it is. Now, in the bigger world, this is part of the long game. This is Uranus's long game. This is Uranus saying, these things don't fit. We need to get rid of these things. We're going to get these things out of the way because you wanted to go that way, but all this is in the way. And so Uranus will slowly strip away things that are not meant to be, that are not meant to be part of things for whatever reason. So yeah, so you want to check the degrees on that, Alyssa, just because that's really important when you're playing with larger planets such as Uranus, Neptune, Pluto. You will more largely feel them when they're on top of whatever you have in that sign. Saturn is also part of the long game, but it plays the game a little bit differently, almost like Uranus. Now, whatever happens, just recognize if something does happen on Saturday for you that you think is related to Uranus, which would be a surprise, or just something unexpected happens. If that happens for you, just recognize that that is meant to happen. There's something being moved around, something being adjusted for your better tomorrow, to help you manifest a better outcome. Okay, and that's really what Uranus will have to say as it goes backwards. Did you have anything you wanted to add, Bright Hawk, to the Uranus transit?
You really are the expert on the Uranus. I gotta say, you've encapsulated it extremely well.
I will say that Uranus, just because we are an LGBTQ friendly broadcast, I will also say that Uranus tends to be a big player with anything that's progressive, and that includes the gender revolution. And Uranus absolutely plays a big part in LGBTQ people's charts. And it doesn't. I have Uranus on my ascendant. It doesn't mean every single non-binary person has Uranus on their ascendant. Absolutely not. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying that Uranus is often at play when a person is part of the LGBTQ community, but not always. And sometimes there's other planets at play, such as Mars and Venus and the moon and the sun. And this has a lot to do with just who you are. And it doesn't mean that every person, like, there's just solid placements that make you gay or whatever. That's kind of a limited way to think about things. So instead, I would more think about it like that we all have a weird spot, and that's Uranus, and we express it in different ways. Some people are queer, some people are part of the LGBTQ community, some people are weird in other ways, right? And Uranus, if you want to take a look at Uranus in your chart, that's probably where your weird spot is. Okay, so Uranus is on my ascendant, so I lead with it. Your ascendant is the arrow pointing to the left. Mine's in Scorpio. I tend to scare people away. I'm a little bit of a pot stirrer, and because I I tend to see things a little bit differently than other people, and I tend to see things a little bit non-traditionally. For instance, the Uranus role in the LGBTQ community. A lot of traditional astrologers do not, especially liberal ones, they do not feel comfortable with expressing Uranus as part of the LGBTQ gender revolution. I personally see it as it is part of that, because that is part of progress, right? And so Uranus is a part of all progress, not just the gender revolution. It'll also have something to do with, trying to move past racism, right? And trying to make progress as better human beings in general. And someday, when LGBTQ people are just integrated and part of our culture, we no longer judge them or make them different, then they may not be expressed through Uranus anymore. So you can see that Uranus is about progress. It's about going forward. It's about it's about being it's about moving forward in a way that humans are all included. And since Uranus is making this movement earlier this year out of Taurus, which happens to be incredibly traditional, and Gemini tends to be gender neutral, it's literally talking to the gender revolution right now as a bigger picture on our planet. And if you ever thought that the gender revolution was destined, you are absolutely correct. And I know I'm talking to the right community here, because, and even Rick Levine said this, that Uranus moving back into Taurus is more of a conservative thing. We're doing our last dip into conservative territory with Uranus, which is totally progressive. It's like oil and water, and so we're putting that back in there, and then eventually Uranus will turn around and go forward through Gemini for like the next, like, I think it's 8 years or 7-8 years, something like that, and it will be in Gemini. And I think that's when we're really going to see a lot of progress for the LGBTQ community. So if you are an LGBTQ person out there and you're struggling, I know there's a lot of people here that have LGBTQ kids and stuff like that, just know that this is our last little headache with that revolution. Okay, so that the revolution is going forward, and I think that gives us hope, frankly. And this is what I think some liberal astrologers are missing when they dismiss Uranus as a queer planet, because this gives us hope. This gives us forward hope for the LGBT community to recognize that as it moves through Gemini, that we might recognize there could be a fall to that conservatism that targets LGBTQ community, which is absolutely wrong. And that queer people are just people just like everyone else, and we have to make progress in the way we think about it. And I think that's what Uranus is calling on. Like, we can't hate people because of who they love, or because they happen to be have a different perspective of their body, or who they are, or their self-identity. So I think that's really what Uranus is about, especially as it moves into Gemini. It's also going to do other things, such as bring forward different communication methods, change life and the way we connect with each other. And that's obviously happening, right? Here we are at a live broadcast, right? Right? Okay, we're online, we're doing this whole online thing. And if your life is changing in that, if you're like, gosh, I have more friends online than I have in person, what's happened? That's what's happened. Uranus, it's a long game. It's a big game. So think about the gender revolution and think about the last like 8 to 10 years, how the conservatives have really attacked transgender people, and that's Uranus and Taurus. That's that agitation that we've been experiencing has been really intense for the last 7, 8 years. It's been really intense for trans people. And being a person that came out before Uranus went into Taurus, when Uranus was in Aries, I figured out that I was queer, and I started reading other people's perspectives and realizing who I was and learning how to express myself. And that really became who I was. And then all of a sudden we entered this conservative thing that started happening. And that was when Uranus entered Taurus. And now we're in the last hoorah. Okay. And I think as Uranus moves into Gemini, we're going to discover the ins and outs and the massive dynamic of gender and how it can come through in so many different ways and leave us with the freedom to express gender in a really different way. And I think that's what Uranus has to offer us, also with communication, connections with others, and even speaking and listening to each other and all of that kind of thing. I think there's going to be a lot of progress in that department. So, okay. So, Bianca, since your Uranus is in the 5th house, what I would say is that probably expresses in the way you raise your kids. Do you have queer children, Bianca? Are you one of our people with queer children? Doesn't lie. Can't make this stuff up. Okay. And Sunday, I'm just going to say to add that Sunday is technically the lunar eclipse. So you probably are going to get some downloads this week, starting Tuesday, Wednesday. It might be a really slow reveal. I know I've been saying that a lot for the last week or two, and it's going to continue to be a slow reveal with Saturn and Neptune moving away from each other and this lunar eclipse working itself up. Lunar eclipses tend to have an effect of aha. Okay, so if something comes up for you Wednesday that you're kind of like, I don't know, you might get an aha moment about it by Saturday. Okay, so just stay open, stay listening to those messages. Try not to dismiss anything that comes through this week. It's very important that you listen. I think that's the most important thing, that anything that comes through this week, that you take it seriously. So if you're worried about your health, go to the doctors, go to the hospital, go to the ER. If something comes up with a partner, listen to what they're saying because they're revealing something to you. If a friend or something else comes up, listen, okay? If something happens at work, listen to that. You want to be tapped in and listening to see what's coming up in these coming weeks. This coming week particularly. Brighthawk, did you have anything you wanted to add about the eclipse, since it does happen on Sunday?
Well, most of us in North America won't witness it, but some folks in Europe and I believe southern parts of the hemisphere. Again, it's that wave thing we were talking about earlier, the trajectory of the moon. So know that it's a full moon in Pisces, and Pisces is very spiritual, so look for the spiritual part of it. Pisces is also one that challenges boundaries, right? Because they're sort of the ocean of emotion, and they just don't even see that they just oozed all over something. That's Pisces in my world. And of course, the sun is sitting in Virgo opposite it, so that axis, Virgo Pisces, that's also a good line of questioning, about inquiring, what does this mean for me? I know we have a lot of Virgo placements between Hollis and I, so that's where it impacts us. in an opposition kind of way. So what does that mean for you? Do you have Pisces placements? Apologize my deck. I will admit my errors. I said Mars was in conjunct. It's the North Node, not the South Node. And North Node means Mars North Node in conjunct is all about setting your trajectory. Your North Node is, am I getting done what I came here to do? Only you know that, right? And it's going to ask you to take action in the direction of your dreams, your purpose, your inspiration, what lights you up, and you, as a result, you light up the world because you're bringing your gifts, right? So that's what we look for in those moments, is like revelation, revealing your gifts so that you can be a revelation to the world, right? So that's what you came here to do. And we're all in it together, holding each other, going, okay, we could do this. So that's eclipse energy number 1. That's the lunar eclipse. And then, of course, in 2 weeks, we have another new moon. This is our second new moon in Virgo. And we talked about this when we had the first new moon in Virgo, because it was at like 0 degrees, and now it'll be at like 29 degrees. It's very unusual to have 2 new moons in one sign, but it does happen. So again, Virgo is all about what's for the greatest good of all, nourishing, nurturing, tending, raising the bar, very high level of integrity. Really holding the highest vibration, the highest vision for everyone so that we can realize that. What does that mean for you? New moons are an incredibly awesome time to set intentions. Be mindful of the new moon you're setting an intention in, which is in this case Virgo, which again, Hollis has mentioned health. Very, very, very good thing to always, be giving thanks for our great health. Fake it till you make it in some cases. And hopeful, and prayers for folks that are trying to, dig your way out of a health situation and feels like it never ends. Blessings. I'm looking at you, Hollis. Goodness. So the eclipse will happen, the solar eclipse will happen on the 21st, and of course that will be equinox. Full moon happens to be all lines up right there. And remember your subconscious. You can tell yourself, I'm nervous, I'm anxious, or you can tell yourself, I'm excited to see what gets revealed. I'm hopeful. Hope for the best, and holding a vibe or a candle or an intention to help us get there, definitely valuable. You can always get a crystal grid from me. That's a great way to do your intentions and hold them. If you don't know what a crystal grid is, we could talk about that afterwards. I want to let Hollis finish and check out the zodiac for the week. So here we go. Yeah, and then flip it around. Whoa, 2 sides.
So you can set your intention. Okay. So I haven't quite gotten them ready yet to sell the astrology reading with the crystal grid, but I will assure you that I am working on that. It's taking me much longer than I thought. Bianca, the fact that Uranus is in your 5th house tells me you probably raised your children in an unusual manner. You definitely had a surprise by losing your son, and then your child is biracial, which would mean that they're very progressive, right? Progressive, I would say. Did you raise your children fairly progressive as well? Maybe you did some unusual things or something like that, okay? And it also could be about fun. It could also be about romantic relationships as well. Okay. So Uranus, with Uranus's movement right before the eclipse, I'm pretty sure we're going to have awakenings. We're going to have like movements that go, oh, okay. I'm pretty sure we're going to have reveals in regards to your health and things like that. Just pay attention. If something happens this week, if your body starts speaking to you, remember that's still Mercury, and you should always listen to your body. And I myself am struggling with things, and there's a line that could get crossed. And if that line gets crossed, I assure you I will go to the ER, and I expect you to do the same. So take care of yourself, listen to anything that happens around your health, make sure that you are tapped in that regard. And especially because Virgo really rules health, so that ends up being in a way that oh, I just don't want you to ignore anything that you feel. Okay. So let's see. So Tuesday, Wednesday, that's when the yacht is into Mercury. So I'm going to share this just 1 second. All right. All right. So I don't know how well that will show up, but if at all, it doesn't
Really
show up,
tiny.
does it? No, it doesn't. All right. So you know what? I'm just gonna take it out. All right. So I'll just do this like this, so that way, when we make the edits, they will hopefully look pretty good. Okay. So I'm gonna also tilt this down just a little bit because StreamYard always likes to add the words right here. And I haven't got them to change that yet. So, so this first horoscope will be for Aries. Aries, this is for Aries, Sun, Moon, and Rising. Now, like I said, this is for um, Tuesday, Wednesday, um, Tuesday in particular, Wednesday with that yod that I told you about that is pointing to Mercury. Oops. Um, it's very important because it will be a destined message of some sort. Now, this message could come through any way, Aries. So this horoscope is for Aries, Sun, Moon, and Rising. It will be most accurate for Aries rising. Let me say that. And for Aries, let me say this is going to have a lot to do with your day-to-day life. What's happening in your day-to-day life that needs to change? Something is going to shift. You're going to get a message. Something is finally going to get through. And right now I'm thinking of my granddaughter, thank God. But anyway, anyway, Aries, I want to assure you that the messages will be coming through for you. You'll probably be getting them like through your job or something that you do every day. It could have something to do with your health as well. So make sure you're tapped in, make sure you pay attention, especially if it has to do with like friends or anything. It's who you are, your identity. There's a big message headed its way for you, and that will be on Tuesday. You'll be getting that in regards to your day-to-day life, something you do every day, probably your job or school or whatever it is that you do every day. That message will be coming through from there. The eclipse will also be happening there. So the eclipse will actually be happening in your 12th house, but it will be opposite that 6th house. So it might be something that you just don't recognize in yourself right away. And you'll recognize it by the end of the month, and it will be a slow reveal. So you might kind of miss it a little bit, Aries, but just hang in there, Aries. It's going to come through as the eclipse comes through at the end of the week. You will come to realize something. You just may not recognize it right away. You probably won't recognize it until the end of the month, September 21st, in the equinox, because that when the solar eclipse happens on September 21st, that's when it's really going to make sense to you. Okay. But there's going to be some things coming through that are going to help you on your path, help you have some realizations, help you open up to who you are and to your identity in general. Okay. Especially with Neptune and Saturn making all this movement in your sign, Aries. There's a lot going on for you. So just hold on. There's a lot of shifts going on, not only with your identity, but also with the direction of your life and how things are going and in respects to your day-to-day life. So I think there's a lot of changes going on for you right now, and I'm pretty sure you're going to manage them just fine, Aries. Hang in there and just keep going and keep listening. Make sure you listen this week and respond to any thoughts, feelings, or intuition or anything like that that comes through this week. You definitely want to be paying attention to that. The next horoscope is for Taurus. This is for Taurus, Sun, Moon, and Rising. Now, Taurus, this has everything to do with your children, or maybe it is your day to day life, but it will be your day to day life in regards to the children. So, some sort of message is going to come through. It could also be a romantic relationship, or anything else that has to do with you having fun, whatever you do for fun, or any creative projects that you have. Those in astrology, like if you're like, well, I don't have any kids, I'd say, well, anything you've created, a creative project, is also very important for you. Okay, so this is for Taurus, Sun, Moon, and Rising. These messages are going to be coming through either children that you know, children in your life, your loved one, your romantic partner, possibly something that you like to do. Maybe you like to have, there's something that you're doing that's fun on Tuesday, Wednesday, or something you'd like to do. Make sure you listen to that, because there's going to be a message about how you can better your life and how life can be better for you, especially this month. Maybe there's some improvements or some changes that you need to make, Taurus, and Mercury is speaking right to you. And for sure, that could come from a romantic partner or a child, or somehow through your fun or creative projects. So stay open and keep listening, Taurus. I'm sure that the download will come directly, and I'm sure you'll stay grounded for that. And the next horoscope is for Gemini. This is for Gemini. Gemini, this is going to be about your home. What is it about your home that needs to change or shift? Gemini, that is something at home that needs to change. Maybe this has something to do with how you live in your home or how your home is. There's going to be a message that comes through that's going to help you understand things a little bit better and help you to sort of move through life in a good way. And that's going to be really on Tuesday, Wednesday. It's really going to come through. It could also come through your parents, or your, your childhood home, or the home that you live in. There's going to be some messages that come through. Maybe your parents tell you something that helps you more deeply understand the path that you need to be on. Maybe it even points to your aha moment in relation to your friends or people that have power and control over you, especially since the lunar eclipse will be happening in your 11th house this week at the end of the week. So I feel like that's also really powerful. So if you feel a shift in that regard, just allow it to happen. If you hear some messages, please respond to them. Please do what's right for you, Gemini. Please listen. The universe is speaking to you, and the messages, some sort of communication is going to come through your home or your house, or maybe your parents, or anything like that that has to do with where you live or how you live in your home, or even possibly your childhood home. So respond to that, because it's super important, because it will be in relation to the lunar eclipse at the end of the week. Like I said, that will be happening in your 11th house, which has a lot to do with like other people, like your friends, or it could also have to do with like people that have control over you or influence over you. So you really want to be paying attention to that. Okay, now as we go forward, this next horoscope is for Cancer. Cancer, this is for Cancer, Sun, Moon, and Rising. Like I said, it will be most accurate always. My horoscopes will always be most accurate for your rising sign. So make sure you know what your rising sign is. That's based on your time of birth. If you're not sure of your time of birth, you can also look for your sun sign. It will be fairly accurate. And your moon sign will be more about your emotions. Now, Cancer, especially for you, Cancer, this is very much about your community. This is very much about your neighbors. This is about how you're connected to community. There's some messages coming through, something you need to know about in your community, particularly at the end of the week. You'll probably have like some sort of aha moment or something about work, especially also pulling from maybe other people's money as well. So paying attention to how this works with your community, your siblings, your neighbors, anybody like that that sort of lives around you, right? That's what this is really about. This is about tapping into that. You're going to get some messages, and literally your neighbor could come up and tell you something, or you could go to a community event and get some information that makes sense for you, or that has meaning for you, or maybe you're already involved in your community and there will be some messages coming up. Okay. So listen to those messages, tap into those, Cancer. And as going forward this week, just be open to whatever aha moments you have in regards to your work and your offerings in the world, because that is leading you into the right direction there, Cancer. And that's really pushing you where you need to go. This next horoscope is for Leo. This is for Leo, sun, moon, and rising Leo. Now, Leo, this has everything to do with money. Okay. This also could have a little to do with your values and money, but it definitely has a lot to do with money and relation to like relationships, or also to higher learning, to education, to tapping into better ways maybe to handle your money. Especially since Saturn is up in your ninth house there, Leo's, especially Leo risings, with Saturn up there in Pisces. It might really help you understand better ways to handle your money. And this is messages about your money and how to handle your money a little bit better, or what to do with it in a better way so that it's better handled. And so this is this is a very important thing about your money, Leo, this week, especially Tuesday, Wednesday. Some messages are going to come through about that. And then the eclipse will happen in the higher learning. So you'll probably get like an aha moment, maybe even about your money or about learning, or maybe even something about legalities in the ninth house. So if there's something coming up for you, remember um the eclipse is on Sunday in your ninth house. So that very much has to do with legal situations. And with Mercury in the second house, you're definitely going to receive some messages Tuesday, Wednesday. Okay. But you got this, Leo. We know you can do it. We know you can get through this. We know that this will be really good for you. And now going forward, the next horoscope here is for Virgo. This is for Virgo, sun, moon, and rising. And this is now Virgo. Let me just say, this is going to have, if you feel like your identity is shifting during this eclipse, you are not wrong. Okay. There is some things going on for you, some big changes for you, some big shifts about who you are and how you express and how you show up in the world. Particularly as we move forward, the messages are going to come through with Mercury speaking to you in the first house of your identity. This will very much have a lot to do with who you are and how that's working for you. So just hang in there, Virgo. Get through this eclipse with, just stay open to the messages that come your way. Don't ignore any downloads, thoughts, ideas, or anything like that that you might get. And maybe write them down, or take note of them, so that way you can be sure that as the slow reveal happens this month, you can tap into things. And when the eclipse happens, don't be surprised if that has something to do with like relationships, or other people's money, or anything like that, Virgo. It could have a lot to do with that, especially Virgo rising. And just hang in there, just hold on tight as things start to shift for you. This eclipse is speaking to you directly. This is about what you need to let go of so that you can move into who you are to be. Okay, Virgo? The next horoscope is for Libra. Libra, this is for Libra, sun, moon, and rising. And what I want to say about this, Libra, is that first of all, you there could be some hidden parts to this, okay? You may not notice the messages on Tuesday, Wednesday. Maybe you're just too busy taking care of some other people or something like that, okay? But there are messages coming into you Tuesday, Wednesday, okay? And you just need to listen to those messages, but I'm suspecting that you won't get it. You probably won't really get it until maybe over the weekend. Sunday, when the eclipse happens, I suspect it's going to be have something to do with your day-to-day life. Maybe it has something to do with your work or something else that you do every day, or maybe even your health, Libra. And as you go forward, just sort of hold on to that and just stay open and know that you might not always see what's being revealed to you slowly. It is being revealed to you, but you might just not see it. So if someone else sees it, make sure you listen to that. Or if you have like a dream or some sort of like psychic awareness, or if you have, I would also suspect Libras, it would be a good time for you to see a psychic if you're unsure and you really need some answers. I would recommend that you go to a psychic, because the Mercury is right on the edge of your psychic house and house of people that have an influence over you. So I feel like those messages could come through a psychic if you really need to know. And that the eclipse is going to happen in your sixth house, which is very much about your health and your happiness and your day to day life. So as we go forward, and then later, the eclipse will probably happen in, for Libra risings particular, it will probably happen in your 11th or 12th house, which will be very much about people that influence you. And it might be things that you don't see necessarily, because we don't tend to see those things in that part of our chart. So I would suggest that you definitely go to see a psychic. For Libras, this would be a good time to see a psychic. And now going forward, this is for Scorpio. This is for Scorpio, sun, moon, and rising. Now, Scorpio, this is going to have everything to do. You're going to get messages regarding work. Okay. You're going to get messages regarding um, something you offer in the world, because this is going to influence how your friends or the people that influence you or people that are in your life on a day-to-day basis. It could be like landlords or bosses or coworkers, okay, those kinds of things. But you're going to get messages in regards to work, and maybe or in what you offer the world. And the eclipse is going to have something to do with like your creative projects or children. So I can totally see you getting some messages from work or something else that you do in the world that then feeds into maybe your kids or your creative outlets or other things that you create, or maybe your romantic relationship. Okay. So just when the eclipse will happen in that area of children, creative endeavors, or romantic relationships, or even fun. That will all happen over the weekend. But before that, you're probably going to get some sort of message at work, maybe even from a coworker or something like that. But for sure, you're going to get a message from work. Something's going to come in maybe while you're working, and you'll get the download directly during that time, during Tuesday, Wednesday. Now, this next horoscope is for Sagittarius. This is for Sagittarius, sun, moon, and rising. Sagittarius, this has everything to do with what you offer the world, your gift to the world, your work in the world. It's really going to go out, but it has also not just your work in the world. It's going to have the eclipse will do more to that, but maybe there's something about higher learning, something that you have to learn, or some legal processes that you have to go through, or maybe if it's even a spiritual awareness or awakening that you're going to experience, Sagittarius. as you experience that this week, it's going to probably influence you this month in regards to your work in the world. So just hang on to that. Just listen to that. Be open to that, especially in relationship, because I can also see that Uranus is in your house of relationships. So that could be absolutely business relationships. Yes. Um, and how that plays out for you. Now the eclipse is happening in your home, so there might be something about home and where you're living or how you're living in your home that might need to shift or change. That's going to point you on your path, on the path you belong on, in the direction you're supposed to be going. And so don't be surprised if you get a little bit of some surprises, but I think you're going to be okay, Sagittarius. Just hang in there. I don't think it'll be a bad thing. I think it's going to be good things, Sagittarius. I think you're going to be blessed up, especially since Jupiter's in Cancer right now. Jupiter is in positive alignments right now, your ruling planet. So Sagittarius, I think you'll be good during this time. And the Mercury transit could be a little bit intense. You could get an intense message, and I just want you to just hang on to that. It will depend on where your placements are, really. If they're um if they're actually in a square to that Mercury will be in the first couple of degrees. So if you have your rising or your sun in the first couple of degrees of Sagittarius, you probably are more likely to hear a challenging message that will help you, but it will help you make better choices about your future and take action going forward.
Wow.
Well, I'm not done yet.
Oh,
Okay. Um, okay. So I just try to take a deep breath in between each one. Okay. So now this next one is for Capricorn. Capricorn, sun, moon, and rising. Now, Capricorn, this is going to have a lot to do with your shadow. This is going to have a lot to do with the parts of you that you don't like to talk about. And I recognize that those are the parts of you that you kind of avoid or whatever, but they also have a little to do with your identity. Okay, Capricorn. So just hang in there and listen to those messages. If someone points out something in you that maybe you don't like so much, or maybe it's about other people's money, or maybe it has to do with death or sex or other topics that make you uncomfortable, maybe the occult. The best thing to do, Capricorn, is to just listen. And then for you is to go ground. Maybe even for you, it's to go do some sort of repetitive work so you can think about it, because that would greatly help you, Capricorn, because that's what helps you kind of work things through in your head. And so, Capricorn, just hang in there. The message is definitely going to be in relation to something you don't want to talk about or face or deal with, but unfortunately you have to. So Capricorn, just keep going forward. The eclipse itself will happen, the lunar eclipse on the weekend will happen around money and community and what you're surrounded by and how that affects who you are and how that's affecting your choices as well as your personal identity. And as we go forward, that eclipse is happening in your 8th house. So there's big changes coming your way, big shifts, personality shifts. And I wouldn't be surprised if maybe you end up doing a little shadow work or something like that, Capricorn. It's okay. We know you're good for it. We know you'll keep going. You're stubborn, and we know that you will get to the top of the mountain exactly where you belong. Now, this next horoscope is for Aquarius. This is for Aquarius, sun, moon, and rising. Now, Aquarius, this is going to have something to do with relationships for you. So relationships, is there some sort of relationship thing that was happening last week? It could happen. It could come up again, Aquarius. Yes, again. And that's not going to be the greatest thing for you. It's going to probably frustrate you. Aquarius is probably going to come up in a way that's not going to be fun. And with Mercury in the seventh house, and it could be romantic relationships, business relationships, family relationships, friends, any kind of relationships, and sometimes even relationships to things like food or money or something like that, especially if it has something to do with your identity, Aquarius, especially with Pluto transiting your sign right now. So with Mercury speaking to you through Virgo, it's pretty much coming through to say, hey, this relationship needs to change. Is this really what you want? Is what you truly desire? And I think that that's what's important for you to listen to, Aquarius, this week. And when the eclipse happens in the second house, it's going to have something to do with money. Maybe there's something in that relationship that has to do with money that you need to consider. And those two will probably be directly tied together. Okay. So as something is revealed in regards to money, just recognize as that is revealed, just make the choices that are best for you, that are for the healthiest part of you. Virgo always wants you to choose the healthiest choice. So stay on the healthiest path. And when money plays a role, just recognize it's part of the eclipse. By the time we get to the end of the month, you'll have it resolved. And now for Pisces, this is for Pisces, sun, moon, and rising. Pisces, this has everything to do with your work in the world in particular. So, and your relationships in regards to that. Okay. So, especially what you attract and what comes to you. So, you could suddenly attract some great things or a great opportunity that will change your day to day life. That could be really great for you. So, that could be awesome. Or maybe there's something else that will come up to support you in a good way. And so I would just stay open, especially with the North Node in Pisces and Uranus going retrograde just later on in the week and the eclipse and all that. It might have something to do with maybe there's a neighbor or something like that, and you get a surprise, especially with the eclipse trying to put you, Uranus and the eclipse and all these transits are trying to put you, Pisces, on your path. The North Node is in your sign, and it's been trying to guide you for this year. And hopefully, at this moment, the universe will just come along and push you gently in the direction that you're supposed to be going. So Pisces, stay open, listen to those messages coming through, especially from other people or people that just kind of, even if it's like a complete stranger and you're just like at the grocery store or something and someone just says something to you, because this Mercury yod is actually happening on your descendant. And so it's happening at the first degrees in Virgo. So for a horoscope, that's going to happen on your descendant. And so that could very much be strangers. It could very much be people that just say something randomly to you and you're like, wow, I didn't even think of that. Okay. So it could be someone that's more of a distant friend or a distant relationship. Um, it could just be some random thing that hits you. Maybe someone else's experience, a post online or something like that. It could absolutely come out of nowhere. So just listen to those message. And as you take that message, please apply it to your identity and your career and your work in the world and your day-to-day life. The universe is trying to shift your life right now. So you know what's changing and what's shifting in your life. Just be ready to accept that. All right. Now I'm done.
Wow. No, seriously. Wow. It always is impressive and a lot to interpret, a lot to digest, but hopefully it makes it clear for you how this impacts you. And we're all on a journey together. Believe it or not, we all chose to incarnate at this time. It was a choice. We all made it. Thank God we're on this ship together. And hang in there. And now Hollis will do tarot magic and see what the cards have to say. And I find it always consistently amazing how the cards reflect a lot of what the astrology has said, even if it's just from a slightly different perspective. It's always illuminating. All right,
Okay.
so.
All right. Let me just take a look here and pull these 3 cards for us going forward this week. What wisdom can we have this week? So the first card is the 9 of Swords, which is very much about what you've been thinking about. This could very much have to do with, just your self-reflection, time that you've been spending thinking. This has a lot to do with even feeling a little lost, or feeling unseen or unheard. Being the 9 of Swords, this may even have something that maybe you've said and maybe it wasn't heard or listened to or whatever. And that's really what this is about. It's a 9 of Swords. So this is about the past, though. So this is a reflection of the past. Maybe there was something in the past that you didn't feel heard or seen or something like that. And that's really the important part of that. And now, right now, in the here and now, you have a lot of strength, and you're using that strength. If I can get it centered, you're using that strength to pull you through. That's really what this card is about. Emotional strength and physical strength. This is about all kinds of strength, not just emotional or mental strength, but definitely physical strength as well, with the lion there, pulling you through, pushing you through, and you knowing that that you are headed in the right direction, trusting the universe. That's also what this is about. This is about having the strength to get through this week. Now, going forward, something is probably going to fall apart. Maybe something you want to fall apart, frankly. Something could actually sort of fall apart. This is the Tower card. This has a lot to do with, but what I always remember about the Tower card is when the Tower card falls, some people get very scared. But what I'm going to say about the Tower card is that when things fall apart, it's asking for a rebuild. So there must be something that needs to be rebuilt. So let me just direct you towards the tower, and notice that while the tower might fall apart, that leaves us fresh space and a lot of ways to rebuild from there. So as you're going forward, recognize this week that you've been maybe feeling a little lost. Maybe you're not sure what to do about something. Maybe you're kind of unsure about it. There's something you've been contemplating. And then this week, you're trying to be strong and you're trying to walk through the week to the best of your ability and stay strong and stay open to the messages and things like that, particularly in this card, since it's a sort of a watery card, the strength card, and with the infinity symbol above that person's head. It makes me think of like psychic awareness and stuff like that, especially since the lion has all those sort of tentacle type feeler type things on their head. It makes me think of psychic awareness. And also, as we go forward, the Tower card, yes, that is about things falling apart. Just when and if something falls apart for you, just recognize that this just means that you're gonna get the opportunity to rebuild it in a good way, in a better way. And whatever happens for you, just hold on tight, go forward, and trust in the universe.
Wow. Yeah, that's big. That's a wow.
We had a big week.
Yeah, we got a big week.
It's
I
going to
hope
be
you
a big
guys have
week.
a great week. I am so grateful that you've tuned in to join us. And let's see, do we have any last questions before we leave? I think we're good. Whew. All right, you guys, have a good eclipse. We'll see you next Monday. Thanks for listening to Rainbow Soul Astrology, where we try to be a bridge between you and the stars. Many thanks, much love. Mwah. Have a great week. Thanks so much for spending time with us this week. We hope you're feeling more connected to the cosmic energies in your life and what works for you. We send you lots of love on your journey. If you enjoyed today's show, please hit that subscribe button. It really helps reach more people who could use some cosmic guidance. Hey, and don't forget to share this episode with anyone who might need or want to hear it. And we love hearing from you, so drop us a comment and let us know what resonated most for you, or if you'd like to hear something new next week. Your questions and feedback make us better. Want to join us live? Subscribe! Catch us on Facebook and YouTube. And that's where you can ask real-time questions and be part of the Rainbow Soul Astrology community while it happens. Until next week, trust your intuition, follow your inner wisdom, and remember, the stars are always supporting your journey. Thanks for listening to Rainbow Soul Astrology, where we try to be a bridge between you and the stars.